With the 2025-2026 NFL season now over, today we're going to go through all my predictions of what's going to happen in the playoffs, along with my pros and cons to each NFL team that made the playoffs. Let's get into it. And with my first game that I have up, I have Chargers versus Patriots. Game is definitely going to be fun to watch because everybody's saying that the Patriots had an easy schedule, which I don't really agree with. I mean, the 23-year-old quarterback is having an MVP season, and I don't see how you can discredit that. In Drake May's sophomore season, he had 4,394 passing yards, 31 passing touchdowns, QBR of 113.5 on 72% completion percentage, 450 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. Now currently, as I record this, he is second in projected MVP winning, which might cause another Patriots dynasty coming up soon. Some of the pros, including Drake May this season, they had a reliable run game with Travion Henderson. He had 180 carries, 911 yards, and averaged 5.1 yards per carry and 9 rushing touchdowns. And Ramondre Stevenson, their second back, had 130 carries, 603 yards, 4.6 average yards per carry, and 7 rushing touchdowns, while having a 1,000-plus yard wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, his number one target this season. Let's get into some of the cons of the Patriots. Now, the first con I have on my list is inexperience in the playoffs and off-field distractions. I'm not going to get into much of the off-field distractions part because y'all know what that is, but inexperience in the playoffs, this is a very young team, which is actually one of my other cons. They don't really have playoff experience, and some of their stars, Stephon Diggs does, but Drake May has yet to see the playoffs, so we're going to see how he reacts in the playoffs, which personally I think he's going to do great, but let me know what y'all think in the comments. Now on to the Chargers pros. Their head coach is Jim Harbaugh, and he has that winning mentality. He won a national championship with Michigan in 2023. He was the NFL Coach of the Year in 2011, and he has a Super Bowl appearance with the 49ers in 2012. And my other pro as the Chargers is they have more experience overall. They played a wild card game in 2024 and 2022 with Justin Herbert, which he has yet to win a playoff game, but maybe that's coming soon. Another pro this year is, I don't know if y'all watch Cameron Dicker this season. He's a top 5 kicker in the league with a 97.1% extra point rating and a 92.7% field goal rating, with his long being 59 yards. And I know kickers don't really get mentioned much in the pros of an NFL team, but I think he's definitely worth the mention. Sometimes kickers are in a tough spot and they can either win you the game or lose you the game. Tyler Loop. Anyways, let's get into some of the cons of the Chargers. Yeah, I said that they played in a couple playoff games, the wild card games in 2024 and 2022, but they have no wins in the last 3 years of the playoffs. Who knows if it's going to be a constant cycle of them just going to the wild card game and losing and going to the wild card game and losing. I guess we'll see if Justin Herbert can carry this team on his back. Because that brings me right into my second con of this team is injuries. Throughout this year, the Chargers have been decimated with injuries. Some of the key players that are injured: Joe Alt, Junior Colson, Najee Harris, Rashawn Slater out for season. Justin Herbert and Amari Hampton and Khalil Mack have also been very banged up this season, but Justin Herbert has been playing through it, and Amari Hampton is finally back into the lineup. Despite the easy schedule, quote unquote, this team has been rolling. I'm going to go with the Patriots. I mean, how could I not? They have a top 5 quarterback, reliable run game, and while still having all that, and a top 10 defense in the league. Also, they got Will Campbell back from injury for the playoff push. That's going to be huge. I can really see the Patriots going all the way. I mean, despite the lack of playoff experience, I think this team has what it takes to win it all. On to the second game I'm covering, I have Bills versus Jags. Some of my pros for the Bills, I got Josh Allen. Yeah, he's his own pro because behind Aaron Rodgers, Josh has the second most postseason wins by an active quarterback that's starting in the 2025 playoffs. He knows what the atmosphere is like, he knows what it's going to take, and he's fallen short all these years. He's gonna be hungry for a win. I'm really sure he's tired of what people are saying about him having no Super Bowl appearance and how he's a top 5 quarterback in the regular season, but when his postseason hits, he's nothing. So we'll see if he has what it takes to put this team on his back. My second pro of the Bills is the run game. James Cook finished with a solid 1,621 rushing yards, which is the first among active running backs in the NFL. I mean, no pun intended, but James Cook freaking cooked this year. 1,600 yards is insane. And my last pro of the Bills, if they have the 7th best defense in the NFL with stars like Cole Bishop and Joey Bosa, having a top 10 defense and having your quarterback as Josh Allen, that's a pretty good recipe for success. Which is going to bring me right back into these cons of the Bills. I got 3 of them. First con is obviously being wide receiver firepower. I think the reason James Cook ended up with that many yards is because they have a lack of wide receivers. Khalil Shakir had the most receiving yards by a Bill this season. He was a 5th round pick in 2022, which can get iffy not having a reliable deep threat for Josh Allen, but he finished with just over 700 yards on the season. Now, I don't know what the Bills are thinking, but get this man a reliable wide receiver that's going to get 1,000 plus receiving yards, please. Now, my second con of the Bills is if they're going against a great defense, this can be really troubling for the Bills. And the reason why I say that is because if they can't get the run game going with James Cook, then they're going to have to rely on these wide receivers that should probably realistically be nothing better than a second wide receiver in a room. So if the run game gets canceled out, then they're just going to have to hope Josh Allen can make magic happen with the lack of offensive personnel that he has. And my third and final con of the Bills is their lack of playoff success. The Bills keep going to the postseason time and time again, but have yet to reach a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. And I know what y'all are going to say, even when he did have Stephon Diggs on that team, they still didn't make it to the Super Bowl. And that's exactly why I have them on this con. Years and years go by, they can't get into the Super Bowl, but this is the year with no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes, and no Joe Burrow to go through to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, when was the last time you could say that you didn't have to go through Arrowhead to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC? Alright, now moving on to the Jaguars. I think it's safe to say that this has definitely been Trevor Lawrence's best year of his career so far. He passed for 4,007 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, and going 13-4 with the Jaguars, without their second overall pick in Travis Hunter. My second pro is also going to be their run game. Travis Etienne rushed for 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns, which he has been very difficult to contain recently for opposing defenses. And my last pro for the Jaguars is new coach, new environment, new mindset. And what I mean by this is the Jaguars went 4-13 last year. This team really needed a change, and they got one. They brought in Liam Cohen, and this flipped a switch for the Jaguars. They literally completely did the opposite of their schedule last year and went 13-4 in one season, which is insane. Also, a sleeper pick is Jacoby Myers got picked up by the deadline, and I think he's a solid wide receiver. Now, here's some of my cons for the Jaguars. Now, they did finish with an 11 overall defense in the NFL. They allowed around 300 yards per game, which is pretty good. But in some games, like Week 3, they got beat by the Bengals, and the Bengals put up 31 points on them. And in another game, the Rams put 35 points on them, and they only scored 7. And I'm not saying count out their defense or anything like that, but I mean, looking at that could be a little scary. And my second con I have on this list is how much can you trust Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs? I mean, are you sure you can count on him in big time moments? Say the Jags are down by 7 with 1:30 left in the fourth. Do you trust T-Law to drive down the field and score that touchdown? Let me know what y'all think in the comments about that. And my final con for the Jaguars is lack of experience as a team / head coach in a playoff atmosphere. Last 6 years, this team made the playoffs twice in 2023 and 2022. So, I mean, they don't really have that playoff experience. Just worth mentioning. And the winner of this one I have as the Buffalo Bills. And that could be a hot topic. And I know the Jaguars have been rolling of late, but I just don't see trusting Trevor Lawrence in those high-key situations like I do Josh Allen. Plus, the Bills have the experience in the playoffs. They tend to dominate when January comes around. The next game we're going to talk about is Texans versus Steelers. Now, we're just going to jump right into the pros of the Texans. They have the number 1 defense in the league. This defense has been as scary as any defense in the last decade. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. combining for 27 total sacks on the season. With the heavy hitter of Jalen Petrie, this defense is one of the top defenses like I've ever seen. Second pro I'm going to get into is Nico Collins is the top wide receiver in the NFL, and that's a huge deep threat option for CJ Stroud. And plus, he finished the season with over 1,000 yards, finishing with 1,117 yards. And my third pro is CJ Stroud has looked pretty amazing in the second half of the season. Coming back after injury, I mean, he's looked great. Completing 64.5% of his passes and throwing for 3,041 yards and a 75-yard touchdown bomb, and he's still only 24. Now getting into some of the cons of the Texans. Number 1 con, and I think it's pretty obvious, is this offensive line has been nothing short but horrible, allowing 23 sacks and a 32% pressure rate this season. And I think that's like the bread and butter of the NFL. You have to protect your quarterback. That is unsustainable. And my second con is, besides Nico Collins, there's very little offensive firepower. Due to injuries, Woody Marks has taken over most of the snaps as running back and showing flashes, but the O-line, can you trust them holding up for the run game? Let me know what y'all think. My third and final con for the Texans is just talking about the O-line. This game, they are playing TJ Watt, which he came back from injury last week, and he looked pretty great. He had that interception, and this could get real scary real fast for Texans fans watching this. All right, now we're going to get into the Steelers. The Steelers barely squeezing by for this spot. We're going to get in some of their pros. And by the way, I've been listing 3 pros and 3 cons for each NFL team that made the playoffs. Starting with the first pro of the Steelers, DK Metcalf is going to return. After the incident that DK did, he was suspended for 2 games, and he couldn't come back at a better time for the Steelers, I think, coming back for this first playoff game. The receiving corps has definitely been struggling with DK and Washington out. Also, Jalen Warren has been a beast lately for running for 950 yards. That's just another pro. But having Adam Thielen as your number 1 wide receiver in 2025-2026 is definitely not sustainable. So I'm sure Aaron Rodgers is very happy. The other pro I have is Aaron Rodgers' playoff experience. Among QBs in the playoffs right now, Aaron Rodgers has the most playoff wins by far and the most experience. Obviously, some of that is due to his age being 42, but hey, a pro's a pro. And my third and final pro for the Steelers, I actually did 4 on accident for the Steelers because I added in Jalen Warren, but Mike Tomlin is a Super Bowl winner. I know Steeler fans probably don't like to hear that, but he's been the Steelers coach since 2007, and he won the Super Bowl in 2009. He has won it before, so there's something to grab on there. We'll see if he can use that experience and carry it over for the 2025 playoffs. At the end of the day, he's going to be happy because he didn't go below 500 this year. Getting into my Steelers cons, I know we talked about it, but Aaron Rodgers' age, despite having the most experience in the playoffs, he's the oldest QB in the playoffs, being 42. And during the season, he definitely has made some questionable plays at times. My second con for the Steelers is the Steelers offense versus the Texans defense might get ugly. Like I said, this Texans defense has been on fire, so this might be very alarming. Within the last 3 Steelers games, they have won or lost by just a 1-score game with okay opponents, but this Texans defense is no joke. Moving on to my pick that's going to win this game, I do have the Texans defense being way too much for Aaron Rodgers to handle. I have the Texans in this one for sure. My next game we're going to talk about is Packers versus Bears. Now we're just going to jump right into the Packers, as their first pro is Jordan Love is expected to play. Malik Willis has been great, but having your franchise QB can be very motivating as a team standpoint, and he threw for 3,381 yards and 23 touchdowns this year. My second pro is actually a pretty recent one, is that they signed Diggs to help out this depleted defense with all the injuries. I don't know how much he's going to help you, but hey, it's better than nothing. And my third pro that I have is they have Josh Jacobs still, and he is still a great running back. He can rush for 100 plus yards any game. He ran for 929 yards, averaging 4 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns this year. I'd say he's definitely a pro. Moving into the Packers cons. Very, very depleted team as a whole. Missing, most importantly, Micah Parsons and Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft was having a career year before he had a gruesome injury, and Micah Parsons had 12.5 sacks before that terrible injury. My second con of the Packers is they had a horrible ending to this season, losing their last 4 games of the season. They have 0 momentum going into the playoffs. Moving on to the Bears pros. The Bears have a guy named Caleb Williams, and he's been looking elite. He can make a dead play turn into something absolutely amazing. He threw for 3,942 yards, almost being the first Bear in Bears history to throw for 4,000 yards. And he also threw 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions this year. My second pro I have for the Bears is they have a lot of downfield threats and a solid run game with a total of 6,150 total offense yards and averaging 5.5 yards per play this season. And that's actually going to correlate to my third pro I have is Ben freaking Johnson. Without Ben Johnson, none of this is possible for the Bears. I can promise you that. Ben Johnson is an offensive guru, and he has been absolutely amazing this season, bringing back this franchise to life. Last year, the Bears finished last in the NFC North with a 5-12 record, and this year they won the North with an 11-6 record, getting home field advantage in round 1 of the playoffs. Truly an amazing turnaround. Now, like every team on this list, I am going to talk about the Bears cons. While Caleb Williams was number 1 on my pros for the Bears, he is truly amazing. He makes crazy plays, but sometimes he extends the play too long to where he does something very questionable at the end of it. Overall, just his decision making is what I'm talking about. Obviously, that's going to get better with time goes on. I mean, this is only his second year, so yeah. Also, this is his first playoff game, so we'll see how he handles the pressure. Going on to my second con of the Bears. According to ESPN, the Bears have the 29th ranked defense in the league. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I do not think that defense is very sustainable in the playoffs at all. They allowed 362 yards per game this season and also giving up 49 touchdowns. My final con for the Bears is, along with the whole defense, they have a lack of pass rush. It has been very apparent this season. Watching them, the eye test says it all, and they are giving opponent QBs a lot of time in that pocket to make some decisions. Now, my pick to win this game, I think it's pretty obvious. I have the Bears. The utterly horrible ending to the Packers season this year has given them no momentum, and I do not think they're going to be ready at all this week to face the Bears. Now, moving on to the next game I have up is Rams versus Panthers. We're going to jump right into the pros of the Rams. Number 1, just being straight up Matthew Stafford. I mean, he's getting more and more likely to win MVP, especially after that last game he had of the regular season. Having him at the quarterback position on your team in the playoffs is huge. He is an elite veteran that makes the right plays at the right times. He threw for 4,707 yards this season, 46 touchdowns, while only throwing 8 interceptions this year. Now that is absolutely insane. Number 2 on the Rams pros is Sean McVay. He is one of the, if not the smartest head coaches in all of football. His play calling is just nothing short of elite, and him and Stafford have a great connection and great chemistry. And both of them have been here and been in this situation before. Number 3 on the Rams pros is the offense as a whole. The Rams have the number 1 offense in the NFL going into the postseason, according to ESPN. They average nearly 400 yards a game, and they have elite wide receivers and elite running back duo. Now we're getting to the Rams cons. Number 1 on the Rams cons I have is aging stars. I'm not going to lie to you, it's very hard to sit here and find some cons that the Rams have, at least in my opinion. But the 2 best players on this team, Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams, are pretty old for the positions that they play in. Not to take anything from their seasons, I literally just talked about Matthew Stafford being number 1 in MVP votes, more than likely. But the age does concern me for risk of injury. Number 2 I have on the cons is the Rams have an 18th ranked secondary according to PFF. I understand PFF grades can get iffy. They don't really pass the eye test sometimes. Maybe need to be taken with a grain of salt, but sometimes stats are stats. My third con I have for the Rams is the Rams defense allowed 327.5 yards per game and 38 total touchdowns according to ESPN. While this isn't a huge con, but this can definitely still lead to hiccups if the offense doesn't start rolling, which is honestly highly unlikely. Now moving on to the team they're going to be playing in the Panthers. My first pro that I have for the Panthers is throughout the Panthers' tenure of Bryce Young, it has been up and down and kind of in the air if he should even remain a Panther. But I think definitely this year answered their question. They shouldn't move on from Bryce Young, and because this is their first playoff since 2017. The second pro I have is it looks like the Panthers found a gem in their new wide receiver, Tedrock McMillan. Now this guy is a beast. A very tall, lengthy rookie wide receiver coming in and having a 1,000-yard season is insane. He's going to be great for a very long time. My third pro is last year the Panthers had the worst defense in the NFL. This year they are ranked 16. The improvements to their defense was obviously very noticeable, holding to the Falcons to 0 points in like week 3, just using them as an example. Not to say that they still have a long way to go, but they also beat the Rams in week 13, which is huge because that's the team that they're going to be playing. If that doesn't give them a little hope, I don't know what does. Now getting into my cons with the Panthers. The Panthers did make a playoff berth, don't get me wrong, but they went 8-9 this season. So more than likely, this is going to be short-lived, but definitely something to build off of. My second con I have for the Panthers is, as an offense, they're very hit or miss. At times they'll look great, and at times they'll look absolutely horrible. In 5 games this season, they scored 10 points or under, and they are ranked 27 in the NFL, only averaging 295 yards per game. Very unsustainable in the NFL playoffs. My last con I have for the Panthers is because they look very, very out of place in the playoffs. I definitely think it's going to be noticeable with the stats and the eye test for sure. I think they're probably going to look out of place, but definitely something to build off of, like I said, going forward after this loss they take. Obviously, my prediction is I have the Rams definitely beating the Panthers very badly. I don't think the Rams are going to take another loss by the Panthers. I think that was kind of a fluke thing, but I guess we'll see. What do y'all think? Moving on to the last matchup we have this weekend, Eagles versus 49ers. Eagles pros I got. The Eagles are very aware of this playoff atmosphere. They're coming off a Super Bowl win last season and maintaining the 1 seed all year. The 49ers have to go through Philly, and might be rough. I mean, we all know the Philly fans are pretty crazy, and that atmosphere is going to be insane. The second pro I have for the Eagles is Jalen Hurts is a great QB. Despite sometimes his struggles passing the ball this year, he's very confident and humble in the playoffs. Like I said, he's pretty humble, and he lets his game do the work for him. Like, he doesn't really talk much. He just plays football. In his last 10 playoff games of his career, he threw 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions with a passer rating of 95.4 with 1 Super Bowl win. I mean, that's pretty crazy. My third pro for the Eagles is, while their defense is ranked 13th in the NFL, they have a lot of floor raisers on that defense, and they are hardcore football players. I mean, they got guys like Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond. Zach Bond finished the season with 123 tackles and 2 picks. DeJean finished with 93 tackles and 2 picks. And last but not least, Jalen Carter had 5 TFLs and 33 tackles and 27 sack yards. I know I'm just reading stats to you guys, but y'all definitely watch the Eagles game. Y'all know how big of floor raisers these guys are. They'll change the game. And that's just some guys that I'm talking about. Obviously, there's more. Now, the Eagles' cons. While their offense can look amazing at times with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, at other times they can just turn into a straight pumpkin. Like the time they blew a 20-point lead to the Dallas Cowboys at half. Last time they played the Bills a couple weeks ago, they had a total of 17 offensive yards in the second half. 17. My second con I have is Saquon Barkley. Now, hear me out. Saquon Barkley is still an elite running back, but his numbers dropped dramatically this year from last year. In 2024, he had 2,000 rushing yards and 5.8 yards per carry and 13 rushing touchdowns. Compared to this year, he had 1,140 rushing yards, 4.1 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. Like I said, he's still a great player. I know this is a con, but it looks like they might have to rely on the passing game more, which can kind of get a little iffy. For my third and final con, I have off-the-field issues, especially this year with A.J. Brown. Now, I know this Philly team is usually unorthodox when it comes to that kind of stuff, and they end up figuring it all out, and that's just their identity. But I don't know, man. Like, this year, it was very, very apparent, and they were going through stuff. It seemed like it was a lot more public with A.J. Brown, like reading a book on the sideline mid-game, telling people not to start him in fantasy football, and having a meeting with the owner of the team in the middle of practice. Yeah, that doesn't just happen. Alrighty, now moving on to the 49ers pros. Despite the 49ers injuries this year, they finished with the 7th ranked offense in football, averaging 350.4 yards per game and having 49 total touchdowns. Now that is truly amazing, because we're going to talk about the injuries a lot here, but that is amazing. And a huge part of that is possible if it wasn't for Kyle Shanahan. I don't know what he says to these guys. I don't know what he does. But what he does with this beat-up team to compete for a number 1 seed after losing your starting quarterback for almost half the season is truly amazing to watch. I think he should definitely be in the running for Coach of the Year. Now for the 49ers cons. Number 1 I have, this was a truly amazing season, but injuries still have been their biggest stump of the season. Missing key guys like Fred Warner, Trent Williams, who's questionable, Ricky Pearsall, who's questionable, Nick Bosch, Brandon Ayuk, for other reasons, obviously. Like, they just can't catch a break. Top of that all, Nick Bosa has been out for season for a very long time. It is rough. All right, now my second con is they were playing one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they had a bad loss at the end of the season to the Seahawks for the number 1 seed. Week, they were only able to score a field goal, which is the lowest points they've had in a game since 2017. Brock Purdy threw for 127 yards and an interception, while CMC only had 23 rushing yards. Now, unlike the Green Bay Packers coming in with no momentum, I think they're going to feed off that game and come back stronger. Now, my pick to win this game, I'm going to have to go with the 49ers. They have been more consistent overall. They don't have all these off-field problems. I mean, they do have off-field problems, but not ones that they can control for the most part. And I'm not going to lie, I trust Brock Purdy more than Jalen Hurts right now. I just do. Give me the 49ers in this one for sure. All right, now we're going to talk about the two teams that had the bye, and then we're going to finish the rest of our predictions and see who I predicted to win the Super Bowl. First team I have up is the Seahawks. Now, some of their pros, I got 3 of them. The Seahawks defense is a force this season. It has been crazy. Finishing at rank 6 according to Fox Sports, only allowing 285.9 yards per game and 31 total touchdowns. That defense is on fire. I mean, we just talked about the 49ers, how they've been rolling this season despite all their injuries, and they shut them out to 3 points. My second pro is Sam Darnold. Not just Sam Darnold, but JSN. They have built the best chemistry I've seen by a wide receiver and a quarterback this year by far. JSN finished with 1,793 receiving yards and 10 total receiving touchdowns and averaging 105.5 yards per game, while Sam Darnold finished with 4,048 yards and 25 total touchdowns. It's truly amazing. I mean, Sam Darnold led this team to 14 wins and also led the Vikings last year to 14 wins. That's crazy. 2 different teams, 2 different seasons, 14 wins. That doesn't just happen. And my third pro for the Seahawks is Mike Macdonald. He has truly been an environment changer, and after entering the Seahawks as the head coach, winning 14 games this year in only his second year, the Seahawks made a ton of changes, and it is definitely paying off. They made right decisions for sure. Now the Seahawks cons. While Sam's season has been great, don't get me wrong, he tends to not play his best games at times. His last 3 games of the season didn't look the greatest, but not bad either. I mean, they were just subpar, I think. But you did see what he did in the last season in the playoffs. So see what he changes this year. I mean, I think they have what it takes. If Sam Darnold really steps up this postseason, I think they have what it takes to win it all. I really do. My next con for the Seahawks is near the end of the season, the Seahawks have been getting off at a rough start at sometimes. Some games it takes long for them to get going, and then it kind of leads to these unnecessary comebacks at the end of games. My third con for the Seahawks is the interior all-line has been very questionable this season just because of relying on young players that have not yet proven something in the NFL, but now is the time to prove something in the playoffs. Moving on to the Broncos. The Broncos defense has been nothing but short of absolutely perfect. Like, it's been amazing. Led by their star Pat Surtain, finishing number 2 in all the NFL rankings of defenses, allowing 278.2 yards and only 29 touchdowns this year. It's been crazy. The second pro I have for the Broncos is having an experienced head coach like Sean Payton is huge when it comes to playoff time. He has been in this situation time and time again with the Saints. I mean, he definitely has something up his sleeve saved for the playoffs. In his career as a head coach in the playoffs, he's gone 9-9 in the playoffs with a Super Bowl win with the Saints in 2010. And my third pro for the Broncos is while having a top 10 defense in the league, they also have a top 10 offense in the NFL, averaging 342.6 yards per game, 53 touchdowns, and led by their QB, Bo Nix. It seems like he is developing very well in the NFL. Now my Broncos cons. While they have a top 10 offense, Bo Nix, like we were just talking about him, he's great, but he can be very inconsistent at sometimes. During games, he can make questionable decisions. He has thrown 11 interceptions this year and taken 22 sacks, even though not all of those are obviously his fault. Sometimes it looks like he gets the blue screen of death. And my second con is the Broncos finished first in penalties and penalty yards this season with 124 penalties and 1,149 penalty yards against them. A lot of those penalties have been unforced and just silly mistakes. The third con I have on the Broncos is injury concerns. I know injury concerns are about the same for every team when it comes to this year, but I do worry about the J.K. Dobbins and the Evan Ingram injury. Those can really come into play if they don't play in the second round this year. I guess we'll see. It is time to get into my Super Bowl predictions after round one and talking about pros and cons for every team that's in the playoffs. Starting with Broncos and Bills. I don't know, man. I think I'm going to have to take the Broncos this season. I think the Broncos are just on another level offensively, and they have threats, deep down threats. They have running back threats, and they have a top 10 defense. This team is nice. Now moving on to my second prediction is Texans Patriots. The Texans have obviously the best defense in the league, but I think the Patriots are going to overpower them this game. The only reason I got the Patriots is because the lack of Texans offense. I know it's been coming around, but I just trust the Patriots more in this one. Now moving on to the NFC. We've got 49ers, Seahawks. Man, if this ends up happening, this is going to be a good game. But like I said, I don't know, man. This Seahawks team is moving different. Give me the Seahawks in this one. Their defense being one of the best in the league. Their offense has been rolling with JSN. And I really do think Sam Darnold is going to figure it out this time around and bring them far. Next, I got Rams versus Bears. I think this is where it ends for the Bears, man. I'm not going to lie. I do not think that defense is going to hold up against the number one offense in the NFL, being the Rams. Give me the Rams to move on to the conference championship. If my predictions are correct, I have Patriots versus Broncos in the AFC, and I have Rams versus Seahawks in the NFC. Patriots versus Broncos. I'm going to have to go with the Patriots, man. I mean, they are both second-year quarterbacks, and I know the Broncos defense is a force to be reckoned with, but man, Drake May has looked great this season. He has looked fantastic. Give me the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. And Rams versus Seahawks. Man, I'm going to say it. Give me the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl in 2025, 2026. I don't know, man. Something's telling me that they're going to go far. I see it happening. That is, if Sam Darnold can carry this team to the win. If he can play good, if he can play his good football like I know he can during the regular season, and he doesn't just hit the blue screen of death and do crazy stuff and just settle down and play football, I really think he can take this Seahawks team, him and JSN, to the Super Bowl. Now, in my timeline, in my Super Bowl prediction, before round one of the playoffs, I have Patriots versus Seahawks in the Super Bowl. And man, I'm going to do it. The Seahawks are going to be Super Bowl champs in 2025, 2026. Just think they were the number one seed for a reason, and they're going to show up and they're going to play. Their offense has been rolling, and their defense has been absolutely amazing. This is a well-balanced team, and I really think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Let me know what y'all think about my predictions. Tell me if I'm being stupid and I'm an idiot. Tell me if I'm right and y'all agree. Let me know what y'all agree with and disagree with and the pros and cons. And let me know what y'all want to see next. I'm going to make more NBA content. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of both. And I'm going to try to upload one NFL video and one NBA video a week, or depending on what y'all guys want to see. Just let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
You like that? You like that?